Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 2024 College Series event for the parents of our junior class, the class of 2025. I am Keith Glock, and I am here to talk to you all about the road of the application process and the beginnings of it, and kind of how we want our students to think about what's important. Where am I going to apply that makes me feel really confident in the places I'm going to potentially attend college and have it be someplace I'm going to be happy and I'm going to thrive. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in here. College obviously being just ahead for us is pretty scary for some. For some of you who have maybe a third or a fourth student going through this, maybe a little less anxiety for you all. This is a cliche, we know that, but I believe that, especially in Montgomery here, we've kind of created a culture where college feels like a prize, and the thought that I get to say, oh, I got into this place or I got into that place, or even for parents to be, bragging, well, my child got in here, and obviously there's some of those things that are so normal, but on our side of the fence as counselors, I often see it at the expense of perhaps where a student really, really feels passionately and intensely that they might want to go, but it gets lost to a name or just something that would be perceived maybe by some as a more prestigious place to attend. So just keeping in mind, I challenged the students when I spoke to them the last couple of days to really look for the match that they're looking for rather than thinking of it as a prize. So to give you all a sense of the timeline of what's going to happen here, we presented to the junior class previous Thursday before our snow day, and then again on Monday, yesterday, and today. Now we're doing this for you all parents. And this is just more big picture. Starting tomorrow, really, we're kind of welcoming our students to make appointments with us to see us individually so that we can answer some of these big picture questions individually for the students. That'll leave them with a rather large list of schools that they can begin to do research on. You all can make plans as family to visit as many places as you can. Hopefully the goal being to come back in September to Montgomery so that we will meet in groups again, and I will present to them exactly what they need to do in order to make the college application process work. Very nuts and bolts. Here's what you have to give us. Here's when you have to give it to us by. And all of that will add up to a really smooth application process. So we're looking forward to dealing with that. The bullet on here that I like most here is this second one, because obviously we want the students to speak to people that they trust, siblings, friends of siblings, family members, whoever that is. But I've always been encouraging the students to ask why. Why, if they get an opinion about a particular school from someone, always ask why they feel that way, because too often our kids just say, I'm going to accept what is being given to me, as gospel rather than, potentially finding out some more information. Because the example that I used with students was, perhaps the reason why this person giving you this information feels so passionately negatively against a school may be the exact reason why you want to go. So understanding their reasons and rationale are certainly important. Want to do some quick vocabulary. I think we dispelled some myths in our group meetings because we often hear the term small liberal arts college. A liberal arts college is not small at all. In fact, liberal arts meaning that you can just study a wide variety of topics. So though the term small liberal arts college may apply to a lot of different places, it does not have to. Penn State, Ohio State, Rutgers. Big schools, the biggest in the country, in fact, are liberal arts schools. It is the specialized schools like the music conservatories or the art schools, Stevens Institute of Technology, NJIT, where you're going to be an engineer or a business major, a coder. You're not studying English at a tech school. So making the distinction there, just to clean up that vocabulary. Some more vocabulary that we feel is important before we really jump into what I think is the meat and potatoes of this presentation. The Common Application, it is an easier time than ever for students to apply to college. More and more schools accept the Common Application. Hundreds and hundreds now do across the country, including Rutgers. This was the first year that Rutgers took the Common Application, and everything went very well. So I see no reason why that would not continue. Makes our lives very easy. Not only makes it easy from a ease of use standpoint from your end, meaning you have to fill out all the logistical information potentially only one time. Students have to write one essay and then maybe just some supplemental questions, answering like in 100 words, tell us why our school, which is fairly easily done. Common App and our Naviance account system link together, and we will link that in September when the kids come back as seniors, and then we on the school end are able to send things like transcripts, letters of recommendation directly through Naviance, and it will flow right into the student's Common Application, and we will get submission statuses and confirmations. It just gives us a lot of really good peace of mind as we go through. Some vocabulary to consider here. First is early decision. Early decision, we are applying to only one place in the early decision period because it is binding. You are signing a contract when you apply that says if I get in, I will attend. The students sign a similar contract, and I sign a contract that says that we have all spoken about this. There is a notion out there we're going to get into about right after this about early decision versus other application deadlines, so I'm going to save that for a second. Early action and regular admission, as you see here, these two items, there is no difference in these two items other than the deadlines that they carry. Early action, usually November 1, November 15, December 1. Regular admission, January 1 or February 1. Other than that, no distinction whatsoever, no cap or anything on the number of those schools that students can apply to. And then we have some other deadlines down here that are kind of just designed to be advantageous to the school. There is no real advantage at all for students to apply to these deadlines. It's just kind of we're locked into whatever the deadlines that the schools ascribe to their processes. So now let's get into the big question of the day, because I think this is something that our students are asking all the time, and I think that they have strong feelings about what the answer is going to be. I believe that many people out there believe that there is an admissions advantage when applying early decision. So we went through this with the apologies for our bell system there, went through this with our students and kind of phrased it as a science experiment, that if my hypothesis is that there is not an admissions advantage to applying in the early decision period, and I asked the students to throw some evidence at me that would disprove my hypothesis. And, and there's the statement you'll see, and people are going to say this, by the way, when you attend college visits. Someone from the admissions department is going to stand up and say, we accept 65% of our, applicants that apply in the early decision period and only 9% in the regular period, so it certainly behooves you to apply early decision. You're going to hear that. They're going to gloss over it. It's going to seem as though that disparity in acceptance percentage is the thing. It would be the reason that would disprove my hypothesis. Now, I don't believe at all that an admissions percentage disparity is a reason. I don't think we're looking deep enough if we are simply accepting that there is an acceptance percentage difference. Why? We need to go a level deeper and not only ask, all right, what's the answer to the question, but now I need to explain the disparity. Because if you believe that the disparity alone is the reason, then what you are saying you believe is that schools are lowering the admissions criteria for early decision applicants. For what reason? So you're telling me that if I am applying in the early action or regular admission deadline decision period and I'm applying to Harvard, that I have to have achieved grades at this level and or SAT scores or whatever the admissions criteria is. But if I'm applying in the early decision period, just because I'm saying, hey, I'm committed, I really, really want to come, that I don't have to achieve that much. I can achieve a lower standard. Now, if that sounds crazy to you, it's probably because it is. Certainly, schools are not lowering the admissions standards. We cannot accept that explanation, the admissions percentage alone, as a reason. So, when you hear that statement at some of these college visits, I encourage you to have your child raise their hand and ask this question. What I'm hearing you say is, you are lowering the admission standards for early decision applicants. Now, that question may silence a room, and I would be interested to hear exactly how associate deans of admission answer that question, because they don't. I would venture to say they don't like that question, because few people delve this deep. The question that we need to answer, knowing that the admission standards are not lowered, is which populations are applying during the early decision period. Okay, so let's think about it from this perspective. Let me bring myself in full screen here. So there is a segment of the population that applies to college in the early decision period that I have dubbed the 100% admits. Okay, our recruited athletes, recruited anything, band members, science department. One of the children of one of our faculty here a couple of years ago was recruited to the University of Central Florida, received a full ride because of her science aptitude. An incredible situation. Happens all the time. Okay, these are not things that schools are publishing for you because they don't really want there to be a rational explanation. They want you to look at the acceptance percentage and say that the percentage itself is the reason. I had joked with our students and used this example that Caleb Williams is a young man who is about to leave the University of Southern California. He was their quarterback, and before he was the quarterback at the University of Southern California, he was the quarterback at Oklahoma. And I posed the question, does anybody in here think that Caleb Williams had any reservations at all about the fact that he was going to get into Oklahoma or Southern Cal at the time at which he applied? And, everybody kind of laughed and joked and said, no, of course not. And I said, well, right, of course not. The reason is because everybody already knew he was in, because the coach had already given his information to admissions. It's the way that works in the recruited athlete sphere. If you want this scholarship, band member, science department person, football quarterback, you're going to apply in the early decision period, so that when that application gets received by the admissions office, they don't even look at it. They just stamp it yes and move it over because they've already seen it. So now, what else do we know about the early decision applicant pool? We know it is a much smaller applicant pool relative to the rest of the decision deadlines combined. We also know that through the years, it's data-driven, that it is a largely qualified applicant pool. There's not a lot of wholly unqualified students who are applying to a place and saying, let me just take a shot in the dark here. It's largely qualified students. So smaller applicant pool, largely qualified students, recruited athletes, recruited this. What other special interests are out there that the school is going to admit on a 100% basis? Okay, when you look at all those 100% admits that the school is not pumping up as reasons, that is what accounts for the disparity. So that is the reason. The percentage itself isn't the reason. Who is making up the population that is accepted at that higher rate is the explanation for the acceptance percentage disparity. So when it is touted by the school that look at how many more students percentage-wise we accept in early decision, so you should apply early decision, why are they doing that? They're doing it for two reasons. And I'm going to go back in here and I'll show you. First, they want to control yield. Yield is the number of students that actually attend the school after they've been admitted. The second reason, before I go into showing you why yield is so important, is the second reason is that they want to be able to control their portrait of an incoming freshman class. And by that I mean when they report out on the internet or to the government like they have to, here's the average grade point average and the average standardized testing score of our incoming freshman class, they want that to be certainly consistent with the level that they have identified internally. So if this is a high achieving academic school, they want that average grade point average and average SAT score to be as high as they possibly can make it. So if they are enticing very, very good academic students who are not recruited athletes or anything like that, any of that 100% admit population, it allows them to select very, very high achieving academic students only in that period, because it may average out some of the students from that 100% admit population that might be a tick below the academic standard of the institution, but they allow grace because they believe that they are performing another task for the university. And all of those things, when you put them together, come to an average score that they are happy to report out. But enticing more and more students to apply in the early decision period gives them more options with which to do that and accomplish that. Second thing relative to yield, now let's talk about yield, because it's pretty important as it relates to the college. I hadn't updated this tuition number since 2018, and I don't really feel like I have to because the point still remains the same. This was the actual cost of attendance for Lehigh in 2018. I did come up with it. This 2,000 incoming freshmen is a fictional number, though I did make that up just to make it a nice round number. If the school only, has 1,900 students who tell Lehigh that they're going to come, and there's a 100 student gap there, we times that obviously by cost of attendance, and before anybody even walks in the door, Lehigh's operating in a $5 million deficit. If more than 2,000 students accept, now we have a problem with identifying where we might house them. Now we have to rent out hotels and spend money that we didn't want to spend in that direction. So now we have an operating deficit. So either way that you slice it, schools are very motivated to hit their yield number right on the head, and doing that while maintaining that average portrait of a incoming freshman that they want. So enticing the early decision folks and the highest achieving academic folks that they possibly can is right up their alley. So that's my spiel on early decision. And before I even move on, let me say this. It may sound like I am anti-early decision. I am not anti-early decision by any stretch of the imagination. I am very pro-early decision, assuming that two factors exist. Number one, that students look at that school that they are applying early decision to and saying, absolutely, number one choice, can't wait to go, so excited. Like, clearly it's the place that they want to be. And second, from a family's perspective, you're willing to pay full price, because the school is under no obligation to provide you with financial assistance after accepting you in the early decision period. Now, it does not disqualify you from receiving aid whatsoever. However, the schools know what you're making in terms of money and the financial situation. Just last week, New Jersey passed a law that all graduates beginning with the current junior class must fill out the FAFSA. It's now a graduation requirement. So every student is going to fill out the FAFSA from here on. That's one way. Typically in early decision, schools are going to require that you as a family also fill out the CSS profile, which is a more detailed financial document that provides schools with insight to your financial situation. And, folks out there are saying, well, if I can't pay, they can't make me come. Well, they can certainly make it very, very, very difficult for you because of the the contract that you're signing and that students are signing when they apply early decision. It's not something that they take very lightly. So they're going to hold your feet to the fire on that, and they are the ones that get to make the decision about whether or not they believe you can afford it. So please understand that that is, what happens in these situations. It's not just simply you being able to raise your hand and say, well, I can't afford to come. They're going to say, well, based on the assets that we know you have according to these two financial documents, we believe you can. That might mean that you need to sell some of your assets, utilize something from a different account that you may not have wanted to do, but we believe you can pay. And if you don't want to utilize those tools, then you can take out a loan and you can come because you have guaranteed us, in that contract that you're going to attend because of that early decision agreement. So what are the factors that our students should be considering when they are seeing where they want to apply to school? All these factors on the screen here are valid. These are reasons why students want to attend or don't want to attend a place. It's also no surprise that I put size and location up at the top here because when students come back and talk to us after they've graduated and they say, well, I actually ended up transferring, we're certainly having that conversation and saying, hey, tell me why. And far and away, the two reasons that we hear most often about why a student may have transferred is the size of the school and its relative location to their family unit. Size of the school can, constitute both the student population size and also the geographic size. If you're attending Rutgers, you're likely going to have to get on a bus to get to some of your classes. If you go to the College of New Jersey, you can roll out of bed and within 6 minutes probably walk to, wherever you are on campus. Two very local schools that are just very different. Classroom size at a place like Penn State, Ohio State, Rutgers. Your first 2 years are going to be spent in a classroom that is the size of our MPAC. Likely you will be identified as a number and not by name unless you are making yourself known to that professor or teaching assistant. One of these things is not better than the other by any stretch of the imagination. What we talk about and I talked about with the students the last couple of days is you just need to be honest with yourself in your search process about what type of student are you? Are you someone who really benefits from that personal attention, or do you, really not ever need it or use it while you're here at Montgomery? What makes you a great learner? When you identify that and you're honest with yourself about it, that will certainly help direct your search in a positive way. You have to visit schools. I think it goes without saying that we can't rely on the internet to provide us with all of the information that we need. And I think for our students, when they get on campuses, you're going to take tours, and the tour guides or just even the things you see out on campus, your children are going to say, wow, that's cool. I like that. And then they're going to take note of that. And then that might happen once or twice at the first tour. And then the second time you go on a tour at a different school, they're going to raise their hand and ask, hey, do you have... And then they're going to identify that thing that they thought was cool at the first place. And then based on the answer, if the answer is no, now maybe that first place gets slotted in ahead over the second place. That's how college lists are formed. What gets our kids excited? And that's going to be different for everybody, but things are going to get them excited, and things are going to turn them off about places. And you're not going to know until you get on campus. The last thing I'll say about visiting is be cautious about identifying when you're going to see a place, and don't overreact to the results. For example, if you go on a Sunday morning in February to a school in the Northeast and your tour is at 9 a.m. and there aren't many students out and about, you shouldn't say, wow, the campus is dead. I don't know that I want to go here, because we're talking about 9 a.m. on a Sunday, number one, and we're also talking about being very cold. So if anybody is awake at that time on a college campus, they're likely kept inside by the cold weather. If you go on the first Friday in April where it's very warm and the campus is electric and buzzing because everyone wants to be outside in shorts and t-shirts for the first time, you could have a potential misunderstanding of what the campus is like in a very positive way. So it works in both directions. Just understand when you're going and slot that in accordingly. Cost, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on cost at the moment because there is a sticker price to college, like buying a car. If you look on the internet, you'll say, well, all right, this school costs $80,000 to attend, but perhaps your child applies and that place says you're a great student. Wow, look at this. You're from Montgomery. We love you. We really want you to come. Here's $24,000 right off the top. So now a school that you thought was $80,000 is really now only $56,000. And you can compare that to other schools which are going to cost you $56,000. But you're not going to know that until after your child is accepted and they give you the financial package. If you look at the number that is on the internet and that dissuades you from applying, then you may never know that it could have been a place that would slot in next to other schools that you as a family would deem affordable. So do not let the cost dissuade you from applying. Get all the results, get the financial packages, and then utilize it as a tool to determine whether or not you're going to attend. So we identified what the students are looking for. What are the colleges looking for? Colleges are looking for what classes did you take and what grades did you get. That's the number one thing, seemingly across the board. I think there's a misperception from a lot of our students that grade point average is the number one thing. I would argue it's probably third for schools that are accepting SAT and ACT scores. And I think we're going back in that direction. And that might not be the worst thing in the world. I have strong thoughts on that. That could be a whole other presentation in and of itself. But I will justify that statement by saying most of the time, a standardized testing score for our Montgomery kids is a validator of the grades that they are receiving in school. Very rarely do we see a student get a score on a standardized test which is so far above or so far below where they achieve academically normally. So a validating score is a good thing. It's another piece of evidence. I believe GPA is probably third. I can make a pretty logical argument that someone with a 93.5 GPA is a stronger candidate than someone with a 96 GPA, assuming that the 93.5 took 11 honors and AP classes, and the student with the 96 took 3. Maybe a little harder class schedule. What classes did I take? And that disparity, the 2.5 points, is certainly something that we would find acceptable for that. Given the disparate number of honors and APs relative to somebody else. So now, this is relevant for our juniors because they have one more bite at the apple, as I said to them, in picking their classes for next year. That happens in a couple of weeks. And I hope that what you're hearing here is not, I have to hurry up and take as many honors and AP classes as I can, because that's not what I'm saying. Because in a perfect world, yes, a 93 in an honors or an AP class would be preferable to a 93 in an honors class, would be preferable to a 93 in a college prep class. But just the taking of the honors or the AP, if the result is going to be a grade like a 73, I don't think that helps us either. The goal is, what classes can we take where we're working hard, we're doing what needs doing, not slacking off, having some time to do our extracurriculars, spend some time with our family, and, God forbid, sleep. Now, if we can find balance in those areas, if that means that you accomplish that by taking all college prep classes throughout the course of your 4 years at Montgomery, then we have all done our jobs and selected things carefully and in the way that we should have. If you have all 98s and have never taken an honors class, then I failed you in terms of pushing you to take more challenging courses. If you are a student who has 17 honors and AP classes, but have gotten all 73s in those classes, then I probably didn't do a good enough job of saying, hey, let's recognize better, where we're going to find the kinds of success that's going to give us the most options for college. So we're trying to find that sweet spot somewhere right in the middle, where we're not overworking our students, but we're also making sure that they're appropriately challenged. This ownership piece is pretty important. I told the students that I love you all as parents, and I really don't want to hear from you much anymore. And I quip about that because certainly I'm happy to talk with any of you, and if you have questions. And I think our counseling team certainly feels that way. But too often we see parents of students calling or asking questions that our students are fully capable of either emailing themselves and asking, or just stopping down here during lunch or study hall and asking us a question. And the reason why we feel this is so important is because we want the students to practice those communication skills on us, because make no bones about it, parents, under no circumstances should you be contacting a college on your child's behalf. Do not do it. Do not pick up the phone. Do not write an email. Your child needs to be doing this. This is their process. Colleges view those types of things as signs of relative independence and confidence versus dependence. The colleges have a fear, because they tell us this, that, well, what if I let this child in and then they begin to struggle? Is the parent going to be emailing the professor? What is the student going to be doing to self-advocate if they can't be the ones that are sending us a simple email asking a question for some clarification on something? So we really need the kids to take ownership of this process and be their best self-advocates. Standardized testing, it is a thing that is coming back post-pandemic, and I would urge everyone to, if we have a concern about whether or not we should submit standardized testing scores to a school that is test optional, let's talk about that individually, because I think it would be naive of us to think that if that test score falls in the bottom 50% of what the school is reporting out as their 25th to 75th percentiles, I would say it's probably not a great idea for us to send it, because they're probably not receiving a lot of those scores because they're test optional. Outside of that, if things are commensurate, it's a school that is requiring testing scores, that's great. I feel good about it. Here's how we register for the test: College Board and actstudent.org. Those are just, this is simple logistics here. This is probably the last year I'm leaving this slide in this presentation. Previous to about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a thing called SAT 2s, which were subject area tests. They were required by about the top 40 or so schools in the country in terms of selectivity, and those don't exist anymore. So if you have an older child that went to college and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my child has to take SAT 2s, that's no longer the case. Prepping for tests. The bottom line to this slide is we need to prep. We need to do something. Khan Academy is free. It is one of the most pleasant surprises in the world of big corporate education that has ever happened, because College Board partnered with Khan Academy to attempt to bridge the gap between the achievement gap for families with wealth and families without, and what was seen by many, including myself, as potential lip service that was paid to bridging that gap. I can tell you wholeheartedly that Khan Academy is a overwhelming success. If your child's taken the PSAT, you know that you got results that said, here's what you got wrong. Here's things that you can do to improve. Here's what you can study. And here's practice problems to help you do it. Individualized plan for each student. And the prep that Khan Academy offers online for free is very good. Do I still believe that there is some value in these test prep programs? I do, if you have the means to do it, because though Khan Academy is free, and a SAT or ACT prep book on Amazon is relatively inexpensive, what that requires of our students is a large amount of self-discipline and sitting down from this time to this time every Wednesday or every Sunday or whatever it's going to be, and to stay on task, to know, all right, organizationally, this is what I'm going to focus on today. The test prep programs do a good job of keeping our students on task, both because they have to attend the session itself, and the prep programs know a good order in which to present things and what's important and what's not in terms of both content and test taking strategy. So I do believe there's value there, but if there you look at the cost of those programs and you say this is not something that we can do easily, then by all means, utilize the free resources online, Khan Academy, because there is a lot of value there. That is for sure. We talked about Naviance and its ability to make things easier for us during the application process as seniors, but it can also do some really good things for us now as juniors. First is there's a pretty good college search engine. So let's say we've done our college search, we visited places, we're paring this list down, and we're come up with 9 or 10 schools that we think we want to apply to. It's the right size, the right location, all the factors, has the major I want, good campus vibe, and I think these are the places I want to apply to. Now, it's a fair question to wonder if you're looking at the national averages of what's the profile of a student that's accepted at those places. It's fair to wonder, well, how does Montgomery compare to that? Do we not need that national average score? Are we better than that? Are we not? So the great part about Naviance for juniors is we can answer the question about whether the school is a target school, a reach school, or a safety school very specifically and very much for us. So what you're looking at here is something that you can find for every school to which we have had at least 2 Montgomery students apply in the last 5 years. So this right here is the College of New Jersey's scatter plot. What you're seeing here along the y-axis is grade point average, x-axis is SAT score. Within the system, you could change this drop down right here from SAT to ACT if you're a student who took the ACT. And then, so let's say, I have a 1200 on my SAT and I have a 90 grade point average. So it would be right in here. We automatically put those scores in, both grade point average and standardized testing. So when your child looks at their scatter plot, they will see if those values were true, kind of like a human head icon right here. And you would say, okay, each one of these data points is a Montgomery student who has applied to the College of New Jersey in the last 5 years. Green check boxes are acceptances, red X's are denials, and the purple circles are deferrals. So if you are looking at a scatter plot for any school and you see yourself around a lot of green check boxes, you can say, okay, target or safety. If you're around a bunch of red X's, you could say, okay, this is going to be a reach school for me. So identifying target, reach, and safety via Naviance is by far the most accurate way that you can accomplish that. We also have about 80 to 100 college reps that come visit Montgomery every year. So as our students are building their colleges I'm thinking about list in Naviance, because that is how Naviance identifies it. Let's say they put Muhlenberg in their list, and then Muhlenberg signs up to do a college visit here. Our students will get an email that says, Muhlenberg is coming to visit Montgomery. Do you want to go? Click here to sign up. You can do that. Even if you don't have a list of schools in colleges I'm thinking about, you can just click on the College Visits tab in Naviance, and you'll find this list that will come up. And you can sign up and get the same exact email reminder, and that will serve as the student's pass to get out of class. We try to make these rep visits either during early dismissal or lunch if we can, so the students don't miss too much class. Here are some helpful websites that you can utilize to enhance your search. And my final thoughts on the college application process. Go through this process. Be thoughtful about it. Whittle your list down to somewhere in that 9 to 10 school range. Remember that application fees to all these schools are going to be about $75. Sending a standardized test score to every school is going to be about $15 each. So if you're sending SAT and ACT scores and applying to the school, you're probably going to spend $105 on one application. So we're not talking about an inexpensive venture here at the end of the day. And I believe there is value in the process. Because if we're applying to 20 schools, 21 schools, it feels a little bit like we're just throwing something at the wall and seeing what sticks. Because I believe that we probably can do a better job of identifying what our wants and needs are as students and families, rather than just casting such a wide net because it's easy to apply on the Common App. I don't know how wise that is. That said, that is all that I have for all of you here. I'm happy to answer questions in the chat if anybody has them. and wish you a very happy college visit season. If you're visiting over spring break or anything like that, you know, I really think you're going to enjoy it. And speaking from experience, some pretty good connections and memories are built with your children when you go and visit schools during that time. So happy hunting, and we will take any other questions that you have.